While some online bullion dealers continue to charge $4 over spot for U.S. Mint Silver Eagles, SD Bullion is selling 2016 Silver Eagles for just $2.29 over spot for any quantity. Again, that's just $2.29 over spot for any quantity. If you haven't joined over 25,000 new customers by making the switch to SD Bullion, what are you waiting for? You could save hundreds or even thousands of dollars on your next order. SD Bullion, the lowest prices, period.
This is the Doc and Eric Dubin with the SD Weekly Metals and Markets Wrap. Joining us today is our good friend and Gata chairman, Bill Murphy. It's great to have you back, Bill.
Thank you guys for having me back. It's always a pleasure.
Well, it's about time we had you back when silver's up and up over $20. I thought the more we talked to you, silver was going to be heading towards $1 or $2. Is what it felt like sentimentally over the past 6 months. But it's been a good 4 to 6 weeks here for silver, Bill. And I know that's one of your favorite metals. For all the action we've had this week, actually, we're still looking at a close here above $20, so another good week for all the ups and downs. What's your take here on the trading action as the summer is getting started with a bang here in gold and silver, Bill?
Oh, boy, there's so much you can get into here, and I've been focused on silver lately because there's so much you can talk about. I mean, it's just a whole different game than what we've put up with for 5 years, and it's one thing after another, and the case is building for something spectacular. And Eric, knows where I've been coming from on this for some time, and it's quite exciting. And there's a lot we can get into in the sense of it's potentially historic.
We saw the test of 1850, and you had been telling your subscribers for the better part of 2 years now that the 1850 would serve as a trigger, and it did in fact serve as a trigger. We ran all the way up to 21 or so, and then the cartel came in to bring pressure into the market and try to stabilize things. It's fascinating as well too that it looks like they've been leaning on gold, certainly by Tuesday onward of this week, to try to keep silver under wraps. What's your take on that?
Well, yes, Eric, it's really fascinating because today silver sold off a little bit, but as of yesterday, you had gold fit down $55 at one point off its highs, and silver ended up today closing right off its closing COMEX high of the year. I mean, when did we ever see anything like that over the past 5 years? I mean, nothing remotely close to it, and my feeling has been that they have a big problem in silver. It has to do with a tipping point. It has to do with what they've done for 5 years when all the smart guys in our camp, whether it's silver supply-demand guys like Eric Sprott and David Morgan and you guys, I mean, where's the silver supply coming from? Nobody can figure it out. And I think whatever they had to do to get it is on the wane. And that somebody, big money type people are out there and quietly and gradually taking them on. As a result, the silver open interest, even as of today, is right at all-time highs. And normally, the J.P. Morgan crowd wipes these people out, and they get taken out, and we go on and stay in oblivion forever. This time, they haven't been able to get rid of them. And all it takes, they keep buying more. And it's my feeling that they're concerned about what's going on in silver. And what's one of the reasons, of course, gold had run up quite a bit. They were attacking gold to try to get the silver price down. And even as of today, it's not working. And it's potentially very exciting. Even though the gold open interest, for example, is way, way, way off its recent highs, the silver open interest is on its highs. And I had a recent title, where J.P. Morgan said, Houston, we have a problem. And it's something I've been getting into for, last month or two, that I think silver is in play, and it's gradually that they're going to hit the wall. And when we take out 21 the next time on a closing basis, you could see beginning of some frenetic action to the upside that eventually is going to be historic. Because I think, just a guess, that they've gone through the majority of the physical supply that they need to do what they've done for 5 years. And finally, it's going to change, and the change will be dramatic. It's already changed. But, I mean, what's coming will be people will just go, oh, my gosh.
In watching the miners as well, to confirm what's going on with underlying sentiment, I've come to the conclusion, and I'd love to get your feedback on this, but I think that when you look at which particular miners are seeing the biggest moves, I mean, naturally the silver miners are having really large moves, but it isn't strictly just silver companies. It's interesting to note that even a company like First Mine Financing, run by Keith Neumeyer, is catching a huge amount of attention. I mean, this week, it went from under 80 cents down to roughly about $1, and it sold off again. But I find that interesting because of many of the companies that are associated with the ability to have a core asset, and in this case, it's mostly gold, and their flagship property has over 4 million ounces proved up, and it's economic to mine. I mean, the net present value of the deposit per a 2013 preliminary economic assessment had pegged it at just under $600 million for that single deposit. So I'm beginning, and I should say that the market capitalization of the company is under $200 million easily. So I mean, that is an example that I think is anecdotally speaking to very well-off individuals who are aware that we are in the end game, and they're trying to position themselves to weather the storm of monetary reset, perhaps, or God knows what else might be coming our way. And to some extent, Keith has actually formulated the business model with that in mind. He's openly discussed that. And I think that there's something going on in the mining shares that are telling us what's underlying a shift in sentiment when it comes to a growing pool of what I always refer to as the conventional finance world. The 95% of money is managed in the Western world are managed by hands that couldn't even spell gold if they tried. But something's happening. We're seeing really very prominent investors begin to move into gold, and even Soros is taking a big chunk of Barrick. So, I mean, to some extent, one can even make the argument that he's using mining shares as a way of diversifying himself. So what do you think's going on as far as mining shares are concerned, and what are they telling us?
Well, probably know what I'm going to say. They've been screaming all year that we have epic moves, and I'm not using that word lightly, in gold and silver coming. They don't even correct. I mean, the move in the HUI from 100 to 270, I mean, this is one of the biggest moves of indexes you can ever imagine, with no major corrections on the way up. Anybody waiting for a pullback has been left behind. And I think it's going to be that way for some time to come till the public gets involved. And my opinion is this big money I'm talking about that's going after the silver market, they know what has happened behind the scenes. They won't talk about the Gata kind of stuff, but they know what's going on. And I think they know that it's hitting the wall. And that's why the shares, and I mean, First Majestic, and God bless Keith Neumeyer, what's it gone from 245 to over 16 all year long. What? It's just fantastic move, and he's finally getting the the good words that he deserves. I think what you had the other day, I heard he had a BN interview where Jeff Christian called him the favorite stock of the conspiracy crowd or something like that.
Right. Congratulations,
Look,
Keith.
I love to hear that. Tell me if I'm wrong. I heard Jeff Christian say when to sell silver, anything over 20. Is that correct?
I don't recall that, but he
yes,
certainly has dropped some bombs before.
Well, anyway, yeah. So I mean, but Keith's one of the few executives in the silver industry of the major producers that's given Gata the time of day. He's a great guy. And he's got a great staff, and I just hope he keeps charging ahead. But I think that the shares are going to do something that people, honestly, not just will the short term, it'll be the silver move itself, but then wait till they see what some of these shares do when the public comes in. Right now, the general public can't spell this stuff. It's an old expression, but it's so true, and especially with the Dow doing so well. Even, I don't know about your trade, this or that, but where I have the general investor in the United States, it's very tough to get them to move into gold and silver right now. So we've had all this move so far without them. When they come in, it's going to be something else.
And the lion's share of the action in the Western world has been flowing into ETFs, and there's definitely a question mark as to how much of that gold is really there. There's something like nearly 400 metric tons that have flowed into the main gold ETFs since January 1st, and that's been at least supportive when it comes to how the COMEX and the LBMA traders and the paper pushers look at gold, and help stoke the the fire of people accumulating paper gold on the exchanges, which is a great assist. But it is paper.
Well, but you're interesting, but theoretically, who knows what they're really doing? Is we could talk about that one for some other time. But that's of course the big money. They want to be involved in gold. They want to go out and buy it themselves, or for the the big financial institution they're in. So this is an easy way to do it. They can go there, and then it's supposed to be being bought, the physical gold, but these are by big guys. But it's the individual investor, especially that I'm referring to, that tends to come in America on price strength, not weakness, or when there's other crises and so on. They just haven't been there like they're going to be. At least that's what I'm hearing and what I think is going to be the case. So we shall see. And of course that will also add fuel to the to the ETF buying, because as the fervor gets going, more down the road.
So John, what are you seeing this week as far as silver bullion at SD Bullion?
Yeah, it's been interesting, Eric. Demand, from what we've seen, has continued to be very strong. And when I say it's interesting, there's been a little bit of a bifurcation across some of the retail products, and it's kind of a head scratcher. 90% premiums on the wholesale market continue to soften. They're actually under $1 now in the wholesale market. It's been a couple of years from my memory top of the head that 90%'s been that available. It seems like once silver clawed its way back above $20, a lot of silver's come back into the secondary market from investors selling. And I'm sure psychologically a lot of the people who bought around 20 or in the 20s, once they see that $20 level again, those who really don't understand the fundamentals, or some they just need the cash or what have you, but for whatever reason there's been a lot of 90% coming back in the market, so premiums continue to decline there. Sunshine, actually, for the first time in probably 6 or 7 months, they've sold out of their famous 10-ounce bars, and they're about 3 or 4 weeks back, basically 3 to 4 weeks out as far as production, that they're oversold on 10-ounce Sunshine bars. But for whatever reason, we haven't talked to Tom. I don't know if there's having some sort of production issue, because across the rest of the market, pretty much supply is plentiful. If you look at the U.S. Mint's numbers, it's been amazing. They've barely sold any coins in July. I mean, today is the 15th. And the U.S. Mint's reporting that they've sold 695,000 coins for the month. So, I mean, they're running at about a third. They're only selling about a third of their weekly allocations. They have continued allocating coins thus far, basically meaning that they have not yet opened up sales for any of the dealers to buy as many coins as they want. And I would imagine that's due to the fact that they're going to try to stack up probably. My estimate would be 4 to 7 million coins that they're going to want to stack up in their vaults before they open up sales wide open again. As for listeners who didn't listen to our interview with the Sunshine Mint CEO last summer, who Sunshine provides blanks to the U.S. Mint, he let our listeners know that the U.S. Mint had built up about a 4 million Silver Eagle coin inventory last June, and then all the fireworks with Greece and the fears of the Greek banking system collapse and the panic in Greece, they sold through that 4 million coin stockpile in under 24 hours. So I'd imagine the U.S. Mint's probably going to try to stockpile up at least that many, if not more. So I would estimate probably 4 to 7 or 8 million coins that they'll probably is their goal to stack up before they would open up sales, unallocated sales again. So looking at their numbers, June they only sold 2.8 million coins, so that's about at least a million and a half coins that they could have stacked up. This month you're looking at probably, if it continues to the end of the month, another 2 to 3 million. So they're probably, if I had to guess, 2 to 3 weeks away from ending their allocations if demand doesn't increase, which can happen at any time. Because basically, from what we've seen, I mean, just at SD Bullion, we've probably easily sold over 200,000 coins this month. So the fact that the U.S. Mint's only sold a total of 695,000 coins tells me that the APs are just selling to dealers their stockpiles, and they're not reordering any inventory because they feel like they've got plenty, and they're trying to actually reduce their inventory a little bit is what I get from the picture. So,
John, if I may, I mean, to me, that's what I'm hearing. The phone's ringing. Yeah, it's for people, the little guy, the average person or investor calling up to sell. That's what I'm hearing. How bullish is that? Well, I think you're on the cusp of one of the most bullish moves of all time, and the little guy's selling. I mean, it's a classic setup.
Yeah, I mean, certainly we're having lots of customers calling to sell, and I mean, anywhere from 20 or 40 ounces to we're buying back monster boxes from customers. But at the same time, big money still...
Is that at an uptick level compared to the past? Because previously...
It's definitely at an uptick. Definitely at an uptick level for sure. Probably 3 to 4 fold over
wow.
normal buybacks that we do. And I mean, the same thing, the secondary market is just full of coins right now. All the wholesalers and have all kinds of specials they're running on generic rounds, bars they've bought back, and so forth. So it's pretty clear that lots of little guys are selling at least something, but at the same time, we've seen just this week, a big influx of new, fairly big moneyed pockets, and I mean, big money is always relative, I guess, to your net worth. So I mean, if you're barely getting by, it's definitely big money to you. But according some of our banker friends wouldn't think it's big money. But people making 6 to 7 figure purchases on silver that they've never purchased silver before. So it's a pretty substantial investment, and we're seeing new people to the market doing that. So I mean, really, it's not too surprising to me. 20 is such a big psychological number that it really not too surprising to me at all to see a lot of people selling some inventory at that. I think you're really going to see that same thing if and when silver makes a challenge on $50. Once it takes out 50, I think you're going to see a lot of secondary selling onto the market. And the market's just going to take a little bit of time to work through that, and then it'll keep moving on. And again, when we're talking about the secondary selling and retail silver here, it's nothing compared to the overall silver market. So it's certainly nothing to be worried about as far as long-term fundamentals for the metal, in my personal opinion.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's the big money moving into the futures arena, and that's what's building positions here, not selling. And it's so different than what we've seen for 5 years. I can't stress that enough.
Yeah, certainly the sentiment, the trading has changed. Couldn't agree with you more, Bill, that it seems like almost everything has changed over the last 6 months than what we've witnessed for the last 4 or 5 years in the gold and silver markets, particularly in silver.
And silver, of course, is picking up later than gold has, and that's what all of a sudden is kicking in, at least from what we see, and I think it's just extremely powerful. And I think, again, I want to emphasize that, if I may, that the upside action is going to be something that's rarely seen in markets. And I think we're going to, once we get above 21, we're going to head to 50 faster than we did in 2011. And then, after the normal ups and downs, I think 50 is going to be taken out, and as you just mentioned, and then we head towards 100.
We should definitely get Tom from the Sunshine Mint back on again. That was a great interview. And in the last couple of weeks, we've been advancing the hypothesis that the major dealers were basically stockpiling in order to attempt to harvest premium expansion when the market got tighter, and maybe they got a little bit more aggressive than they were wise to do. I'm not sure, but it would be also interesting to get feedback in terms of what may be going on with generic products and whether or not there also could have been some padding, some buffer building, such that allocated distributors and so forth be able to reap higher premiums in the future. I toss this out here partially just for our audience to run with it. I mean, if there are other analysts who listen to what we discuss each week, and if people have feedback along those lines, please send it our way. But we should definitely get Tom back on and talk to him about these kind of dynamics and what the heck's going on at the Mint, because there's a lot of confusion going on in the precious metal space when it comes to interpreting the supply and demand flows, and what is in fact the market signal intelligence value of what the mint is doing in their inventory position.
I'd have to imagine, Eric, that certainly is definitely a significant factor of it. I mean, if you own a small silver mint and you witnessed Q2 and Q3 of 2015, where any silver round you can mint, you're selling at $1, $1.50, whatever, over spot, and normally you're selling anywhere between 30 and 50 cents, maybe 60 cents over spot. I mean, your profit margin is up exponentially. So if you witness that, you're going to want to do everything in your power to have more coins on hand the next time a shortage hits. So I'm sure it's the exact same phenomenon as caused all the APs to stockpile up as much Silver Eagle and Silver Maple inventory as they could get their fingers on in Q1 and into the beginning of Q2 of 2016, because suddenly the market realizes the value of having coins during a shortage period. And so the market overcorrects, or basically overvalues that, and when everybody does that, then there's going to be a little bit of excess of coins. Eventually, due to the cost of carry reasons and the cost of inventory, they'll work that back off and be in a more streamlined position, and the market will be set up for the next shortage move. I mean, really just the ebb and flow of free market forces reacting to supply and demand is how I look at it, versus something like the U.S. Mint, the big government monkey in the market that doesn't make any reactions. When last year, when demand was crazy, they were minting 1 million coins a week and selling them at $2 a coin. When the market was demanding 10 million coins a week, hey guys, we mint 1 million coins and we sell them for $2. I mean, they didn't change their prices, which causes a shortage. And then when the market cools off, they don't lower their premiums, they don't make less. So when you have free businesses, free market businesses responding to market forces, I don't know. That's my take on the market. That what you're seeing a little bit here in the first half of 2016 is a revaluing of, or basically recognizing the value of having gold and silver coins and bars in your vault available for sale when there's a shortage of them.
Well, switching gears a little bit, we know that Ben Bernanke was over in Japan giving helicopter flight lessons to Kuroda and the Bank of Japan. And we've got this reflation going on. We sliced under parity of $100 on the dollar-yen cross, where now immediately following that and the whole drive to introduce another huge round of quantitative easing and further asset purchases in Japan, the yen has now declined in value relative to the dollar, where the dollar can now purchase over 105 yen as opposed to less than 100 only a week ago. And I was just wondering if the macroeconomic picture is changing the way sentiment is being expressed in terms of, your cafe indicator, Bill, and what's happening as far as what you see with requests from individual money managers looking for Gata for insight, things like that.
Well,
is there anything?
No, I mean it's the sentiment indicator is there's nothing. It's the same as the retail market in the United States from the feedback I'm getting from the average person. In other words, it's very blah. There's no real excitement, even with what's happened, this year. I mean, even with the shares, with this historic move up, and with silver getting ready, I think, to go bonkers in the very near future. There's not much. I'll use the word again, excitement. So I think in that sense, it's extremely bullish, and I think you've had this build-up when you're talking about QE all over the place, and what they're going to be doing in Europe and in Japan, and we've been doing it here all year. I mean, for the just until the yield of the 10-year note here in the United States to be at 1.31% the other this week. It's moved up a little bit now, but I mean, it's unbelievable considering what the stock market has done and what gold and silver have been doing. So I think it's dramatic what's going to unfold here, and the gold cartel, as I call them, the bullion banks and the U.S. government trying to keep the prices down, are in big, big trouble. And I think it's just fantastic to see because you can smell it. I mean, it's here. We've been talking about it. You know that, Eric. You've been on the case, and we're here. And the excitement coming up it's really going to be, that's going to be different too. Because it's all of a sudden a lot of people are going to come our way.
And over the years, the Chinese government, sovereign wealth fund interests had discussions with Gata. You've had portfolio managers and people that are just kind of, they're in the biz and they're getting to understand what's going on. And I'm just wondering, aside from the cafe indicator in the retail space, is there anything going on that suggests to you in terms of Gata's phone ringing and polling of the perspectives of Gata that suggests that there's new money, big money perhaps, coming to the sector more so now than, say, 6 months ago?
Well, you've already mentioned partly. I mean, you had some of the big names, even my old friend Ray Dalio, who I started with him way back in New York City when I was, 25 years old when he was getting Bridgewater started. He's been a big, proponent of owning gold and as a Soros and different people like this. And the big, big money is moving in. And I think while a lot of the mainstream crowd won't talk about what Gata brings to the table in terms of the manipulation of the market and price suppression and so on. They know, they've read enough, they've seen enough certain things now, and they're taking advantage of it because they know what the bad guys, as we call them, or I call them, have done. And they're reaching a tipping point where they cannot do it anymore, where they will not have the physical supply to continue their price suppression schemes to keep the prices of gold and silver what I call artificially low prices. And I think the first real clue to that, when more people will even wake up, is when the silver price starts to go bonkers fairly soon. So it's something to look forward to.
All right. Any last thoughts before we wrap up this week, Bill?
Yeah, it's fun to go into a weekend with high expectations versus other times you've been speaking to me. It's always doom and gloom, and what's going to happen now? It's actually happening.
It's nice to see, and it'll be exciting this fall if the move continues here. Once silver, like you said earlier, Bill, once it gets above that 21-22 level, I think it's going to gap up to 26 pretty quickly. And once that's taken out, it's trading above $30. There's really not too much resistance up to 50 because it came down so fast and so severely in spring of 2011. So in the case of silver, it certainly might be that what came down must go up again.
Yeah, and the last thought for me is for people to hopefully appreciate that if I'm right here, I've been talking about it for some time, that silver is in play and that the big money is going after it. And we've seen one sign after another that something big is in the works, and it's going to be, if I'm right, breathtaking, the kind of action that we see. And knock on wood that this analysis is correct, and you're going to be a happy camper.
Could use a few happy campers around here, don't you think, Eric?
It's been a long time in coming.
All right. Well, Bill, thanks for taking the time to join us again. Always great to have you back on the show. Thank
you, and good luck to you both, and your class acts and doing a great job.
All right, and keep up the great work over at Gata. Gata Chairman Bill Murphy.
We should also say that he has a 2-week free trial, so if anybody wants to check it out, just go over to lemetropolecafe.com, and you'll see the link at the top of the page to subscribe. I've been a subscriber for something like 15 years, paid up. It's not a comped subscription. I pay for it because I appreciate the information, and I support Gata, and I support Bill Murphy, and I think that his service is well worth the modest fee that he charges for it. So check it out, folks. It's a free trial.
All right.
lemetropolecafe.com.
All right. It'd certainly be nice if Bill's right about the moves coming in silver. I know Eric and I would be excited to see that, and I suspect more than one or two listeners would be as well. So.
Yeah. I should also probably say that I own First Majestic Silver. I also own First Mine Financing Corp., so I'm entirely biased in the comments that I said earlier in the show. Take that for what it's worth.
All right, so for Gata Chairman Bill Murphy and Eric Dubin, this is the Doc. Thanks for tuning into this week's SD Weekly Metals and Markets.